Well, I'm going to move a little bit away from my typical homily. But first, before I even do that, I would like to thank Deacon Wayne, who is helping us today. He is visiting family here in town, so thank you so much for your presence. It is a blessing for us. Now, many of you I have yet to meet. I am Father Joseph Gifford. I am your new priest here, helping out Father Tyson. And one thing you notice probably first off is I'm standing up here instead of over there. Just with my last two assignments, I've been ordained for a little over 4 years. And my last two assignments, the expectation was that I stand out in front for the homily and I kind of wander a little bit, meander. Hopefully I don't fall down the steps one day. We try to avoid that. But with that, this is just one example of many ways that my personal history has formed me and my interests and all of that. So as we get to know each other, you'll learn about me. I love to ride my motorcycle. I love football, especially the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm sorry. At the Saturday evening mass last night, there were audible groans when I said that. And there are a lot of other things that I love to do, and I enjoy. So before I was a priest, I was actually a professional opera singer. And so I learned Italian and a few other languages with that. Then, of course, as a priest, I know Latin. And then I'm also studying for canon law, which means I have to work a little bit on my German. Now I'm here with you, means I have to learn Czech. Then I love baking, and I did all these experiments with croissants and tried to do croissants from home, so I had to learn a little French in order to be able to do that. And which reminds me, I hear that there's kolachki making tomorrow morning. Whoever's in charge of that, please let me know. I want in. So with all of these languages kind of bouncing around in my head, I might one day just start speaking another language and not even realize it. Just say, Father, please, English. That'll be fine. It will be fine. I'll take no offense at it. It just happens sometimes. Now, all of these things, yeah, they're interests of mine, but they're kind of secondary. They're accidents. They're ancillary to who I am and why I'm really here. I'm here as your priest. I am here to help you all encounter God. And with that, if you don't remember anything else, all those other things you could completely forget about me if you only remember one thing: love. My goal and my hope is that I can be a conduit of God's love for all of you. And now when I say love, I don't just simply mean this desire or affection, this emotion that we may have. Yes, all those things are well and good. They're necessary as part of the human life, but that's not the type of love I'm talking about. I'm talking about love that is a total self-gift, giving of yourself to another. All of you married people out there, you know this, right? Husbands and wives, you have to give yourself entirely to the other. It's also this type of love where we have to make a choice for the good of the other. Again, you as parents especially know this. If you have kids, often you have to make hard choices for yourself, sacrifice for yourself, for the good of your children, for the good of your spouse. That is the type of love that I hope to embody and bring to you, and it's the type of love that I hope that I can receive from you back. Because love, in order for it to grow, in order for any of us to grow as human beings, we must have this reciprocal giving and receiving of love. When we do that, we can experience happiness. But of course, it doesn't just stop on the human level, right? Yes, I am a human being, you're human beings, we all get that, but I'm also your priest. I hope that in my time here, I can be a conduit of God's love, not just my own. That I can help share God's love And I hope and pray that you can too be a conduit of God's love, to receive and share that love with me in this community. And we get a beautiful example of how this can play out in our gospel for today. See, today we have the Transfiguration. I'm sure a lot of you are like, it's ordinary time. Why is he wearing white? It doesn't make sense. Today's the Transfiguration, where Christ brings Peter, James, and John up Mount Tabor to show them his glory. And this glory, this is a word that we kind of throw out in church world. Be like, oh yeah, glory, right? You know this, yeah? Do we? Glory. Glory means the manifestation of perfection. Perfection manifests. So, when Christ was brought up to the mountain and was transfigured, he showed forth his perfection, the true perfection of God made man. The divine nature and the human nature come together in one. Not to create some sort of weird amalgamation or some other thing, chimera, no, but to show the truest perfection of what it means to be a human being, living and loving and growing according to God's will and his love. It's only possible when God himself is present there in that humanity. See, this is a foreshadowing, not just of Christ's own glory, but of that same glory he desires for each and every one of us. And now I'm sure you're like, okay, great, Father, that's fantastic, that's very heady, what does that have to do with me? It all comes down to love. See, Christ showed this glory because he loved his disciples. And he chose these three disciples, Peter, James, and John, for a very particular reason. And they all have to do with love. First, we have Peter, who loved Christ the most. But he did it in a very human way, right? Because we have Peter who says, yeah, you are the Son of Man. You are God. I love you. But then when Christ says, hey, I need to go and suffer and die for you, Peter goes right in front of him and says, no, stop. And what does Christ have to say? Get out of my way, Satan. And then we also have Peter, who loved Christ so much that he stepped out of the boat, walked on the water. And then what happened? His faith and his love wavered, and he started to sink. This is a very human thing, right? We want to love. We want to give of ourselves, but often as we give, we also hold part back. So we can learn from Peter and learn from Christ and how he approaches Peter. We are called to love like that. So we have 1 Peter, 2 James. We honestly don't know much about James, except that he led the church in Jerusalem. He was really kind of this first major leader in the church. And how in that office he lived with love. He lived by giving of himself entirely to that church. Giving of himself entirely all the way to the point of being the first apostle martyr. Giving his entire life. That is love. Then we have third, John. John, the beloved disciple, the one whom Christ loved the most. And what can we learn from him? It's actually something that I already alluded to, but is often overlooked. John had to receive love. Again, in our humanity, just like with Peter, we want to love and hold ourselves back. Unlike John, he opened himself entirely for us. When we open ourselves to receive love, often we put up our own barriers, right? We've been hurt in the past when we've loved and been rejected. When we have loved and opened ourselves up, gave ourselves and been hurt. We can learn from John to truly open ourselves to each other and to Christ, to live, yes, a life of love like Peter, giving himself time and again, like James, giving ourselves to the end, and like John, receiving love to the depths of our hearts without any walls or barriers. We can learn from these examples. My hope is that in my time with you, we can all grow in following these examples, where I can share God's love with you, and you can share it with me. We can receive that love with each other, and of course, offer it all to God. God bless.